This is the most question that I always get every time from different traders or different people, right? So the question is, what strategy do I really use, right? So I'm just gonna give you a short explanation to what strategy I use, right? So I use what's called an assemblage strategy. So through some discoveries, through learning different stuff, I've come to a point where I've managed to develop what I call an assemblage strategy, right? So an assemblage strategy, it consists different type of strategies, right? Some you might know and some you might not know, but there's actually nothing new within this industry. So without wasting much of your time explaining about the assemblage strategy, I just want to welcome you back to the Market Trades Review series, right? Where I'm definitely going to be looking at different setups that I have been looking at within this week, right? Starting from the 27th of May up until the 31st of May, right? So going back to the assemblage strategy, like I said, it consists different type of strategies, right? So you can, if you are looking at my charts, you will see that sometimes I might be using the trend line, right, to check my supports and my resistances, right? And sometimes you might see some listed concepts there that align with ICT or SMC strategy, right? Which actually means that I also have some concepts that I use whenever I'm analyzing the markets. That comes from SMC or ICT. So SMC and ICT is not mainly different. SMC comes from ICT, right? And if you can look, you can definitely see that I have sometimes, if you can look at my charts, you will definitely see that sometimes I also do plot what I call zones, right, on my charts, right, to check the levels of support and also the levels of resistance. And I also use these zones to also mark my supply zones and also my my demand zones, right? So I'm just going to start explaining the reason why I was actually looking for that sell on US30. So I'll just display my analysis right on the left side of the screen. And looking at that analysis, you can definitely see that when I did this analysis, I was actually looking at shorting US30 up until to this level, right? But later on, I observed that with the market order flow, I'm actually looking at more of a bearish move towards this level down here, right? So without going deep into this setup, I'll just remove everything and explain the reason why I was actually looking for shorting US30 from that level, the current setup that you are looking at, right? So I'm just going to remove everything. So here's the thing that I do, right? I also use what's called a top-down analysis, right? Looking at a bigger picture, right, before making an overall decision on the smaller time frame. So I start from looking on higher time frames, and then all of my entries are going to be on the lower time frames, right? So here's the thing, if you can look at this, right? If you can look at this, this is the point where we notice US30 created an all-time high, right? And since the market has been pushing to the upside, right, we can also see that there was a rejection here for the market to proceed to the upside. So this actually tells us something on the higher time frame, that the price no longer wants to proceed above this resistance zone, right? So this is also more like a demand zone, right? This is actually more like a demand zone, looking at that previous all-time high. This is more like a demand zone, right? So if you can see with what happened here, US30 came to this level and it actually rejected, pushing further above this demand, this supply zone, not demand, this supply zone, which means from this point going on forward, we're actually expecting US30 to start dropping to the downside, right? So these are the areas that we're actually going to be looking at, right? If we are expecting to be shorting US30 to the downside, right, we are also going to be looking at this demand to the downside. This is the reason why I was actually expecting US30 to come to this demand zone down here, right, on the daily time frame, right? And this was a supply on the higher time frame, right? So the thing is, since US30 started shorting to the downside, right, I expected a continuation to the downside. So here's what I did, right? I took my my trend line, right, and these are the points that I did pay attention to when I started plotting my trend line. The all-time low, right, coming to the next point. And the reason why I said I was expecting to short US30 to this point, it was because of these 2 points, right? So if US30 was to reject, I was expecting it to reject here and then maybe start pushing to the upside, right? But the thing is, this momentum that was given on the daily time frame, it also expressed more of a bearish momentum. That's why I expected this asset to continue shorting to the downside, right? So I did my top-down analysis, right? I did my top-down analysis, plotted my my support structure here, right? So this was more like a support structure. All right, so where did it go now? Right, so I plotted my support structure here, and I also did plot my resistance structure like this, right, just for guidance. And I had to go now to the 4-hour time frame to look for much important details on the 4-hour time frame, right? So I'm just gonna clear everything and leave my chart clean. No, I'm just gonna remove this. Let me just remove these markups and just leave my chart with the supply, the demand, and those resistance and support trend lines, right? So if you can see the way I'm actually analyzing here, I'm really using these trend lines and the zones that I've been talking about, right? That's the reason why I'm saying my strategy is called an assemblage strategy, because I use different concepts, different strategies to build up something solid for me to understand or to read where the markets are going, right? So looking at the 4-hour time frame, right, looking at the demand that I did highlight on the daily time frame. So if you can look at what's actually happening here, you can definitely see that since the market rejected to push further above this supply here on the daily time frame, the market started dropping to the downside, right? So this is what I did, because when I came to this asset, it was actually around this level, right? It was actually around this level. So this is what I did after I had plotted my my trend lines, right? I had to come here and mark these positions like this on the 4-hour time frame. I had to come and mark these positions like this on the 4-hour time frame, right? So don't mind about that. Someone just switched off the light, not knowing that I'm using the camera. So anyway, continuing from this point, right? So this is what I did. So what I was actually expecting here, I was expecting US30 to short from this point, because when I came, it was actually it was actually around this point, right? It was actually around this point. So I was expecting to break below this support on this structure, and then my entry was exactly at this point, and my stop loss was exactly slightly above the highest point on this structure, right? And I was expecting to short up until to something like this area, right? So if you have seen from the setup that I displayed, right, I'm just going to display it again to the left side of the screen so that you can see it, right? So I was actually expecting this kind of a move. It was more like a 1:2.3 risk to reward ratio, right? But later on, with this momentum, I also expected US30 short as far as to that demand on the daily time frame, right? Right. So I'll explain the reasons why I also had to book most of the profits here, right? So this is what I was expecting when I did this analysis, right? But when I observed this momentum, I had to hold some positions further to the downside there, right? So expecting a continuation to the downside, this is what I observed, right? I observed that there was actually a market shift here, right? There was a market shift. So when we're actually talking about a market shift, we are I'm actually saying that when the market gives us a market shift, it's actually saying the bullish buyers is already out of picture. So now we are looking more at the bearish momentum, right? So sometimes when the asset gives us a market shift, a market structure shift, it has to come back either to a supply up there, right, or come to an imbalance, right, and feel that imbalance for it to continue to the downside, right? Right. But here's the thing, with this volume, more of a bearish order flow was actually presented here, right? That's why I was expecting to short from this area going to our support trend line there. So the reason why I use support trend lines and resistance trend lines is for me to also have an exit trigger, right? An exit trigger. This was actually our first take profit there. All right, this was actually our first take profit around this support trend line, right? This was actually the first take profit. So these are the things that I did look at, right? So I used the market mechanics, right? Looking at the market order flow, right? This market actually turned to a bearish momentum order flow, right? The market was pushing to the downside. If you can see with what was happening here, the market started creating lower lows and lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, going to the downside, right? So this gave me more of an attention to look for sales there. So this is how I actually got into this sale, right? And I had to move exactly around this area, right? This is where I had to move out of the market. Why? We can definitely see that there is also a demand zone, right, around that area. So this is the demand that kept the market to push further to the area that I was expecting down there. So if you can see, we had more of weak rejections. So we had about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weak rejections there. So this is the reason why I had to move out of this trade, right? So I actually captured something like 1047 pips, right? So this was more like a 1:6.7 risk to reward ratio on this setup, right? So this is the first setup that was actually presented within this week, right? So now I'm just gonna go to another setup that was so I actually had different setups, but some of them I didn't actually trade them. I also analyzed Euro USD, so I'm just gonna skip this. I'm not going to explain anything on Euro USD. I'm just gonna go to the setup that we actually did take trades on, right? So we took trades on the US30 and gold, right? I also analyzed GU, but I didn't actually take trades on GU. It went towards our first take profit and our second take profit, right? This I didn't actually share with the community, but I just did analyze it on, by myself, and it also went as expected, right? It managed to go for the first take profit and the second take profit, right? So without wasting much of the time, let me just hop to gold, right? Because gold is one of the setup that I also took trades on, right? So here's the thing, if you can see the same thing that I was also explaining, right? Same thing that I was also explaining on gold is the same thing that I'm also going to be explaining. Sorry, on US30 is the same thing that I'm also going to be explaining here on gold, right? So I just want you to see something on 1 hour time frame, right? Before we actually switch structures, right? So this is the setup, right? So this, I just analyzed this buy on this structure, but the major move that we're actually expecting here on gold is it was actually this sell, and this was actually a good sell that played out as expected. So I'm also just going to display the analysis right on the left side of the screen so that you can also see what I was actually looking at, right, with my community, what we're actually looking at on this asset, right? We're actually expecting this sell, and everything that was happening, I was actually updating the community. So I'll also just display some of the charts, the video. Actually, I'm just gonna display a short video here where you are going to be seeing me scrolling, showing you the updates that I was actually giving to the community, right, in expectation of this sell movement that we're actually waiting for, right? So I'm just gonna remove everything here. Then we go to the higher time frame, right? We're just gonna go to the daily time frame, right? Just gonna go to the daily time frame and look at gold from the bigger picture, right? So if you can see with what was actually happening here on gold, right? So this is the time where I actually spotted a demand, right? A demand on the daily time frame. This was actually, sorry, I kept on saying demand, and so on, right? Sorry about that. This is the time where I spotted a supply, right, in the daily time frame, right? So what happened with gold here is gold went above this supply, but later on it came below this supply, right? Looking at this, which means that gold started creating a bearish momentum, right? Started creating a bearish momentum to the downside, and I'm still expecting gold either to come for this demand, right, on the daily time frame. This is the demand that I'm expecting gold to come to, right? But looking at our setup, I was actually expecting gold to come to this level. I was actually expecting gold to come to this level, right? I was expecting gold to come to this level for our overall sell movement from around That was actually around this point, right? This is where I observed a supply, right, on the smaller time frame. So I'm just going to explain from the daily time frame now, right? So the same concepts, some of the concepts that I used on the US30, I'm definitely going to be also using them here on gold, right? But on gold, I specifically looked at the market mechanics, right? Looking at what gold did here. This was actually an all-time high that was created, right? Before then, around 12 April 2024, right? And we came to a point whereby we also created another high, right? So this high was actually above this high, which means this became an all-time high here, right? Around 20 May 2024, right? And then gold started going to the down to the downside, right? It gave more of an bearish order flow, right, to the downside, right? So the thing is, when it started giving more of a bearish order flow, I started looking for sales, right? I started looking for sales. That's where my main focus was, right? Since we went below this supply, I started looking at more structures giving more of sales to the downside, right? So if you can see with this volume, right? With this volume, gold was actually saying, I'm definitely pushing to the downside, right? I'm definitely pushing to the downside, right? So I'm just gonna scale down to 4-hour time frame, right? So that I can also show you things that I've also been looking at, right? So this was the supply on the daily time frame, and this is the demand, right? This is our demand on the 4-hour time frame. So I'm just gonna try to just scale in, right, on the 4-hour time frame. So I'm still expecting gold to short to this demand, right? I'm expecting it to short to this demand. So the reason why I'm saying I'm expecting it to short to this demand, looking at this, we also have a demand here, right? We also have a demand here, right? So if it means gold wants to shoot to the upside, we have to manipulate first, right? We have to manipulate this demand first, right? To trap all sellers, right? Or to trap all buyers again, which means the market has a possibility of pushing to this demand and then maybe coming back, right? Fulfilling the market structure, and then maybe push to the upside, right? So this is something that I'm actually expecting from gold. Gold might definitely do this, right? So here's the thing, right? More sellers are going to be expecting gold to keep on pushing its further to the downside, which is also actually possible, because if you are looking at the market mechanics, I'm just going to be paying attention to what structures are being created by this asset, right? But the thing is, the smart money might actually want to trap more of sellers, right, and also buyers here, because you can actually see a rejection, right? But before we push to the upside, we actually have to trap buyers, right? And then sellers are going to be holding their sales to the downside, expecting gold to push its furthest to the downside, and then they are also going to be trapped either around this demand, and then structures are going to shift, and then we are going to see more of a bullish structure going to the upside, right? The reason why I'm saying that is because I'm also looking at this on gold, right? This is something that I'm also looking at gold, right? So the thing is, we might break slightly to the downside and then come back above this support structure and then continue to the upside, like what actually happened here. So this was more like there is liquidity down there, right? There is actually liquidity down there that actually needs to be grabbed. There is liquidity down here that actually needs to be grabbed. So the thing is, we might grab the liquidity, continue up, and then give more of what? Of a bullish move there, right? So that can actually happen, right? But the thing is, I'm just going to be monitoring and look at how this asset is going to be moving, so that I cannot just fall into a trap, right? But I'm still expecting a continuation to this demand before they give a trap to these sellers, right? And buyers might be trapped here if they are not actually aware of that, right? So coming back to the reason why we're looking at a sell here, right? So this is what I paid attention to, right? When gold did show to the downside, I observed that it came to grab, right, some liquidity, right? There was liquidity sweep there. There was actually liquidity sweep, right? And then it started giving more buy. So if you can see with what happened here, after liquidity was swept, they went up, they came here, trapped sellers, and then they continued up, coming back to this institutional candle, right? To this institutional candle, there was a structure there that also imposed right, these sales here, right? So when these sales happened, right, what I wanted to see was the market pushing down again to this demand, and this is actually happening, right? This actually happened. And when I came to this asset, gold was actually selling. So what I wanted here, I wanted to see liquidity also being grabbed here, right? So there was also liquidity grab here, right? There was also liquidity sweep, right? So I wanted to see the smart money taking out sellers, right? Coming back to this supply, right? Coming back to this supply, and then give a bearish movement, right? Aligning with the order flow, right? Aligning with the order flow, right? So this is the sell that we're actually expecting, right? So I'm just going to display again the setup on the left side of the screen, right? I'm just going to display the setup on the left side of the screen, so that you can actually see what I'm actually explaining here, and so that you can also understand the reason why I'm saying I was looking at selling from this point, right? So I'm just gonna go to the 1 hour time frame so that I can also mark the structures that I was actually also paying attention to, right, on gold here, right? So looking at this bullish movement, right? Looking at this bullish movement towards the institutional candle that I just highlighted on the 4 hour time frame, right? If we come to this point, we are also looking at a supply here, right? So if you can see, gold actually came, right? Actually came to a supply. If you are on 1 hour time frame, this actually aligns with a supply on what? On the 1 hour time frame, right? So I was looking at this movement, right? Gold going up, coming back, fulfilling on this supply, and started dropping to the downside. So I didn't actually catch this move, right, on sales. So I wanted to catch this move on sales, right? So here's the thing, here's what happened, right? The market, it had been going up, right? So here, this is where it also created market structure shift, right? Or a market shift structure, right? This is where it gave a market shift, right? So here's where I observed market shift on 1 hour time frame, right? And then I observed the break of structure here. So this was actually a break of structure, right? That was created there, right? And then we came and then we swept the liquidity, right? So when I saw what they did on demand here the first time, I was just looking at this, right? So the thing is, I saw these buys, but I was not interested in getting these buys because my trading plan, right? My trading plan was saying I am looking for these sales, right? So that's why I didn't take these buys, right? So you will see on the chart that I was displaying on the left side that I had also marked up for this buy, right? So I saw what they did on demand here, right? And then I knew that they were also going to come back, manipulate right, sellers, and then get into a buy motive, right, into a buy movement, right? So if you can see with what happened here, they gave a manipulation, they went up, right? And then looking on M15, they gave a market shift, right? They gave a market shift structure there, right? And then they started going to the upside, right? So when they gave the market shift, they came back on a demand on M15 around here, right? But I think there's also, let me just switch to M15. I think there's also an imbalance or an order block somewhere there, right? So there was actually an imbalance here, right? But paying attention to this order block, right? This was a demand in this structure, or let me say an order block, right? For it to be actually specific, right? That was a bullish order block. So they came back for this bullish order block. When I observed this market shift structure, I knew that once they break here, they are definitely going to be coming for this bullish order block and start pushing to the upside, right? Up to the point where they also came to this point, and this was more like a break of structure, right? This was more of a break of structure on M15. We also hit another break of structure here when we mitigated the bullish order block there, right? So with the break of structure, right? And if you can see with what was happening here, the market started consolidating, right? And another mind say, I should get into sales, right, earlier. And my trading journal was saying I should wait for gold to come for this supply zone. Then I'm definitely going to be selling for this level, right? And the stop loss above that supply zone and looking at a move up until to this level, right? So this is the sell that I was actually looking at, right, as it was displayed on the setup that I just showed you on the left side of the screen, right? So if you can see with what actually happened here, the reason why you need a trading plan, right? The reason why you need a trading plan is because of this, right? If there was no trading plan, I was just going to walk into these cells and I was definitely going to be trapped when fundamentals kicked in there, coming back to tap the supply, right? So if you can look at this setup as well, it was actually a 1:5.32 risk to reward ratio, right? This was exactly 268 pips, right? And we actually shorted 240 pips on this asset, right? So what I just relied on here, it was actually the market mechanics, right? I had to look for my supply zone, right? And I also had to look at the market shift structures, right? That way giving me more with emphasis that this asset is definitely going to be coming towards the supply day, right? So with the advice that I gave in the group, I think I did send this, was it on Wednesday? That was on Wednesday, right? I think it was around this time. Yeah, it was on Wednesday, definitely on Wednesday. Then I said, this setup is definitely going to be playing out either on Thursday, either on Friday, right? If it doesn't play during this week, it's definitely going to play out the following week, right? But anyways, the market moves in a mysterious way. The thing is, you need to understand that we don't control the markets, right? So this setup actually fulfilled on Friday, and it actually gave exactly like what I expected here, right? So guys, without wasting much of the time and not making this video too long, I'm just gonna end here. And these are the setups that we actually looked at within this week of 27 May up until the 31st of May, right? And this is how these setups played. And another thing, I think I also shared a setup on US100, right? But it didn't play out as expected. So it didn't come back to the areas of interest, the points of interest that we were expecting it to come and mitigate, right? It continued going to the downside, and We actually ignored it. We didn't look at it because it didn't play out as expected. So that's what you do if you have a trading plan, right? You analyze, you write notes down on what you're expecting on what you're expecting the asset to do, right? So whenever it fulfills all those movements, you are just going to be going to your trading plan and then ticking, right? Ticking that, okay, this played out, this is what I'm expecting, this is what I'm waiting for, right? When it comes to your points of interest, right, then you know that, okay, my setup now is ready. You are trading your plan. You're not just coming to charts and then just trading whatever that comes into your mind or what you've just analyzed at that time, right? But if you've planned for a trade, it's going to be easier for you to follow every step and every move. So it's very important for you guys to also have a trading journal, right? Sorry, to have a trading plan and also to have a trading journal, because those are the most effective tools that can be able to make you become a profitable trader. It can also make you a disciplined trader, because you are going to be following every step that you have noted down, right? So I'm just going to be explaining I think the importance of these tools in other videos that are going to come, and in other videos that I'm going to be making related to my strategy, and I think some of the educational videos that I'm also going to be uploading here on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed on our channel, kindly do so. Don't forget to comment with your questions. Don't forget to like the videos. Don't forget to share it with your friends, because this can also actually help someone, right? This can also give someone knowledge, and someone can even learn on how to trade through this market trade review series, right? So thank you so much, guys, for sticking up until to the end of this video. You have great time, and make sure you are utilizing much of your time on learning and understanding the financial markets.